Okay, okay, okay. What I'd like to do is pick up something which I spoke about at the end of the Shiur last week, and I decided that there's a lot more than I thought. Okay, and let's start from the top, but from a different vantage point. Okay, um, um, we pointed out the Ram has a very strange lashon over here in the lav l'chaya kol neshama. He says misha ovar v'lo yichorag mehem misha hoye efshalo laholgoy over our mitzvahs loisaseh. So we asked, l'chayz the double portion, because if he can't kill the guy, there's no Isa, because there's no mitzvahs mulchama on a yochid. So it's also the double portion, since no mitzvahs mulchama on a yochid. So the mitzvah, excuse me, pikuach nefesh should be doicha. As if I'm going to get killed, and it's a question of a lav. I don't have to get killed in order not to be. And I mean, part one might not be successful. The Rambam, we pointed out in Mishnah Torah, doesn't go over this idea of kol shabol yodai echel behem because he only says kol shabol yodai echel behem v'lehogoy v'loisa says l'chera mitzviloi pshitus. Okay. The Rambam brings this only by the lav. He doesn't say this by the assay. So what we concluded, and l'chera, I think it's correct, that the mitzvah of hachin tachrimim is the mitzvah mechemes mitzvah, and there's no mitzvah saseh on a yochid. It's only b'teres the Rabbim, and the proof goes like this: that the Rambam in the Hakdama to Minyan HaMitzvos says that mechemes mitzvah and mechemes rishus is the mitzvahs which are kuches and mechemes rishus and mechemes mitzvah are not noyeg bisman hazeh. Yeah, let's just see it. Okay. Ulefi shekol inyonim alo mufusom eitzel holoiv. It's in Kapach page Nun Zayin. It's just before it begins the mitzvah say. Kol mitzvah say oloisa say atui bekobonis oi ba'avodos o b'mises bezn o b'sanhedrin o b'novi umelach o b'mechemes mitzvah o b'mechemes rishus. So what are the mitzvahs which are tuyin and alo itzarach loim or mitzvah zoyin legis elevnei abayis? So what mitzvahs is he talking about that are tuyin mitzvah mechemes mitzvah? L'cheira it's mechemes amolek and mochatim chazech amolek and the mitzvah of hachrim tachrimim. So mechemes mitzvah and the mitzvahs to do. And the mitzvah say l'chayra hainu hach. That's what I would assume. So then that's the reason why the Ram only quotes this by the lav and not the assay. I think that makes sense, and it works out. So again, it comes out that the asay is an asay of mulchama, and the lav is completely disconnected mulchama. And then we pointed out, I think you can add to this, that the Rambam has a tam, and kedei sheli yafsidu b'nei odav yasitum lavodah zara, and that tam is not dependent upon milchama. And the Ram quotes the tam only by the lav. So I think it's very good. So the lav is by the yochid, and the mitzvah say is only muchama, and wherever it's not in the yochid. Okay. Comes the chinuch, and this, now let's just see the chinuch. We'll see exactly what I want to add here. But I'm not sure. I think I added something now. I'm not sure. But if I didn't, I apologize. Okay? The chinuch is of the opinion that hachred tachimim is also on the yochid. Here in the mitzvah Chof Hey, when he's talking on the mitzvah hachred tachimim, he says v'oiva al zeh u'bo b'yod echad mehem v'yochel lahogo v'lishi istakein b'dovo v'lehogo bitul asay zeh uvad shovo alav shenemu aleihem lo yisachaye ho nishamo. Moshe Kosa Lichtav B'Seif say the Shaitim Bez Hashem whatever. Okay, say it. So here the chinuch is very clear that the asay also is on a yochid, and we'll talk about that later. But let's just see something that's very interesting in chinuch. Comes the minchas chinuch on this. It says like this: I minchas chinuch in mitzvah tav chav hey sefer is out. Because of machave b'oiv al zeh b'yod yodav yochol lahogoy muli sheyistakim b'dovo v'chulei b'tzochiyun nei v'loy b'chol ha-mitzvahs nitche b'bnei hasakono mikol mokom mitzvah zu that Torah tzivsa lo choy mimohem v'yadua that Torah lo tismoch dineha al haneis ki v'bur b'ramban ובדרך העולם נהרוגים משני הצדדים ואיס מלחמה, אם כן חזים דתר גוזרו לא חיימוים אף שהוא סכון. It's just it's a balabatish thing. אם כן דחוי סכון במקום הזה, ומצווה להרוג, אויסוי אף שיסתכן וצורך חיוב. So he says that the reason why Pikuach Nefesh is not noig in Muhammad because kachi derech oilo, and he says, "I don't understand the chinuch." I thought that's the Ram says also Mishoy Efshel Lahogod. Okay, say that. Okay, so now this word begins. Comes the Biskirov. Yeah. Here it is. Zvul l'chayf Anchef Nafshoy Lomus Naftoli whatever it is. He has a posik in Tanakh Naftoli whatever. Okay, so the Shiur from the Bible. Yesh lo ma bil b'zeh. I'm not interested in the moment. We'll see about that maybe later. Yesh lo ma bil b'zeh. Al pi ma shekos hafti mokom acher. Al ma shekos v'chinuch mitzvah tov chav hey. The mitzvahs hachrei tachrimeim nitches mipnei sakonis nefoshes. והמנחס חינוך חיק על זה, תאי כל מחומו, יש בסכונת נפושס, מקום כל מצווה לוחם עמוהם, ובהכוחו, דמצווה זו שייני, אין שם בדבור. So, because הפתי על זה, זה שאין משגיח במחומו, על סכונת נפושס, זהו מדיני מחומו. דהרי יוצאים גם למלחמת הרשוס, אף שאין שום mitzvah cloud. Okay, so you have to know, because there is mitzvahs according to Ram in mitzvahs which are kruchim in Milchemes Rishus. In fact, one second. And before I said I want to ask Kashka, in Ram Kuf Sadi, there is a mitzvah of Mechemes Kishus, or the mitzvah mitzvahs. So here, I didn't catch, I don't know if you know. Here, it's not so bad in Briskerov, because April looks like an ops, Bosrette. So in Mishnah Torah, the Ram doesn't have a mitzvah. He changed what the mitzvah is, okay? But in Sefer mitzvahs, there's such a mitzvah of Mechemes Rishus. But if you look in the Arabic, I'm not sure if that's what Briskerov was based on. It says Al Tashriya Adi Shrana. So it's only a Shrana. And if you recall, we said, we used them in Chaschin, we wasn't referring to the Arabic, that only mitzvah which are mal, which are tzivuyim, there's a kiyum. And there's no kiyum in Milchemes Rishus. So, you guys, let's go again. But Tahari kol mochomi is based on the force. Mikomo mitzvah lochem imoem. Uba kochoch zu shiny ayin shomidvov. There's a mitzvah. He's referring to kol mochomo. So I don't know. Maybe he's referring to mochomo is sure. Because after that, the zeh she'ei mashkichem. Mochomo zehu midini mochomo. Tahari yotzin gam mochemes u'ishus. Av she'ein shom mitzvah klau. She'ein shom mitzvah klau. So I'm not sure exactly how strong this is. In Mishnah Torah, it is strong because mitzvah Torah, there clearly is no mitzvah of Mechemes Rishus, but Ram Sefer mitzvah, there is such a mitzvah. Our mitzvah shehi kechol mitzvah Torah, if it's not a mitzvah mechomo, shenitcha b'binach sakonis nefoshes. V'achinu charimayri v'mi shebo liyodei echel mizayin amimim. Shaloi bil mochom, v'zeh shape mipnei, v'zeh shape nitche mipnei sakonis nefoshes, because it's a posher mitzvah, and all mitzvah nitche. What's not nitche is midini mochomo. So if it's not a mochomo, it's nitche. So that's what Briskerov says. You see. And then he assumes, I'm not sure if he's saying this only in the chinuch, because he goes on, v'nei dvora omer leborach, ki yikach imoy, aseres halofim ish, v'b'nei naftolim, v'b'nei zvulun, אבל שאר שבטים לא יהיס עליהם חויבס מלחמה זו. רק הוי מחייב לו לעזרה בשביל חויבס אחרי תחרימה מוטלת על כל ישראל. Which is a very strange thing. You know, you can have the same milchama, and those that were told to fight are part of the Mechemes mitzvah, and the others that join along are not part of the Chiddush. V'zeh ein hochinami ki Zvulun Naftali chofu nafshem gam lomus b'milchama zu ki b'milchama ein mashkich l'sakonas l'poshus aval sha'ar shvotim im ki hoyu mechuyav lobo li'ezra ulekayim mitzvahs hachrin tachrimei aval lo hoyu mechuyav l'achnis atzmus l'sakonas l'poshus ki ha-mitzvah hi Kisham mitzvahs hatayr shebatayr shenivris l'sakonas l'poshus. It's mamish a pella. That you can have the same milchama, but those that are called up are part of Mechemes Rishus. Those that come because they're their own mitzvah, that is only Hachim Tachrim and there's no mitzvah. But he doesn't seem to have this discussion whether Hachim Tachrim Mechefsa is in Chefsa is Mechemes mitzvah or part of the mitzvah milchama. The chinuch certainly is mechalik like the Piskulav. But the Ram clearly in Minyan HaMitzvos, I think, is not like that. You know, like there's no discussion of that in this law. Then further, you see, I'm just not sure if maybe you can make a case for Briskerov in Mishnah Torah, not like in Sefer HaMitzvos. And I'll tell you what I mean. In Perek K, let's just read a little bit in Hilchos Melachim, Perek K. Hilchos Melachim Milchamis. Ein HaMelech nilcham tchila el al Mechemes mitzvah. Ve'eze Mechemes mitzvah, zo Mechemes shivas amimim, Mechemes Amolek, ve'eze Israel mitzar shebo aleh. So this is Mechemes. And L'cheira, as Yisrael, Miyad Sar Shebo Aleim is Mechemes mitzvah, independent of mitzvah. So in Shivas Amamim and Mechemes Amolek, whether it's a Mechema because of the mitzvah or not, we don't know anything. And he says, Mechemes mitzvah, ain't no tzorch lito rishus halacha beis bezdin el yoytzidah. Right? So you don't need Rishus Bezdin. Okay. So I'm not sure whether you machalik or whatever, but say that. Then Halacha Dalet, he says, Mitzvah Sasei lahachrim shivas amimim shnei mahachrim tachrim. V'chol shebo yoda echad mehem v'lehogoy ari zoiva v'loi saseh shnei ma loischai kol l'shabbat. So why does he say he's over and I say? See, you could have said, see, according to Biskarov, that the Ram mentioned Mechemes mitzvah, and he says 3 categories, and he says the mitzvah say afterwards, and maybe it's not a Mechemes mitzvah because of the mitzvah say. The mitzvah say is nothing to do. The mitzvah say is a separate mitzvah, and they abed zer amolek. So then, you should end up like the chinuch and say kol shebol yodai. And the Ram only says kol shebol yodai echad mehem v'lehogoy only by the lav. So I'm not sure that from the diuk that he mentions Mechemes mitzvah before he mentions the mitzvah say you can do anything because the Ram should have said in Halacha Dalet and says b'chol shebol yodai echad mehem v'lehogoy hari ze bitul mitzvah say v'oba loisa say. So this, I'm not sure of it all. I mean, it's very odd that the Biskarov should say a shikol Torah minchas in chinuch and say kilu that's the pshat in the Pasuk and not mention the Rambam at all. I don't know. So now a separate comment. Okay. This is an ongoing discussion. Assuming the Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvos that Milchemes Rishus requires Rishus Bezdin, Milchemes Mitzvah doesn't. But however, both Milchemes Rishus and Milchemes Mitzvah require Melech, and that's the Ram says that the Mitzvah Milchama, any mitzvah, the kuchas and Milchemes Rishus, Milchemes Mitzvah are not knowing Bisman Hazeh because we have no Melech. So I'm just confused, and let me start like this. If you look in Sefer Shoftim, Perek Gimel and Perek Dalet, it's very clear that Sisra is the general of the army of Yavin, who is Melech Canaan. So these are Canaanim, and that's what Biskelov is talking about. It's Hachrim Tachrimim. That's what he means. Okay. So Devorah was Mitzvah to go to Milchama al Pi Hashem. There's a mitzvah of Tishmon that they have to go. But as you know, there was no, at the time of Devorah, there was no king. Devorah was a shefetes. According to the Marzavitri, she was a chochem chachmei Meseira. According to the Marzavitri, if you can say Yiddish, the Meseira durchgegangen, the Devorah, she's one of the Matiki Hashmur, the Baal of the Meseira. You look at the Marzavitri in office. Okay, whatever. But she had a Dvar Hashem, and she said to go to Milchama, to go and fight. So you could have said that it's not a Milchemes Mitzvah, we're only fighting because of the Dvar Hashem. However, in Shoftim, Perek Hey, Posik Ches, it says Locham, so you would assume that it's a Milchama. Briskelov certainly assumes that it was a Milchama. So the question is, how can it be Milchemes Rishus without Melech? See here, you might say, and it's one of the most confusing issues. I remember Gershon, talking about it, that we have to know what the din of Shofet was. And he had some din like Melech, not like Melech, yes, like Melech. So the question is a Shofet enough for Milchemes Mitzvah, Milchemes Rishus? That's what you have to think about over here. And I guess you have to assume, if you Eric say yes, you have to assume according to the Rambam, certainly in Minyan HaMitzvos here in Akdama, that after the Tkuf of Shoftim and the Malchus is given to David, there cannot be Shoftim either. There can only be Malachim, and that's what it is. I don't know. That's what I can say over here. And I thought those were interesting in addition over here. Okay, now, next. V'amitzvah hamashlima chamishim hi sheizhalnu mechamo or milachmo how if they avoid the zod, they have rachmonas on them. So there's a lav. He's talking about the lav of Leischanim. Okay. First of all, before we get started, we have Sadi going seems to put the lav of Leischanim, whatever it is, together with the ashor of Krisis Bris. and he doesn't have a separate lav of leischanim. The Ram does. Sefer Mitzvah Sadigoin, Chav Gimel, page 222. Ushaloi yichusu beineim bris, k'fi she'oma lo sichois lohem bris, below, and that means lo yisachonim. Lo yisachonim is not mentioned in any other place, and he only counted it one. And Rabbi Yucham Purlau in his biurim to Rav Sadigoin lo yisasiyud gimel, Chaval with Aleph, in he assumes also there's no lav, and in also in Cheli Beis in Yuchupala page 40 to 44. Okay, now let's get started. What is this lachmo? Lo yisachonim. Lachmo, where does it come from? So this is very simple, because in Targum Onkelos, on the posik of Leisachonim, he is metagim lo v'lo yisrachim aleihim. So the Choy, this is Truto Shomeka, and that's where the Rambam gets it from. The Rambam goes further and says that the din of v'lo ma'al is a din by goyim, or v'lo ma'al and v'lo maridin, and the Rambam says the problem of v'lo ma'alin is the lav of lo yisachonim. You can't be merachim on the goyim. You can't take him out of the ball. The Rambam says. The Rambam in Hilchos Avodah Zarah, Perek Yud Aloch Aleph and Beis, v'yosel l'rachim aleim shneim lo yisachonim, u'lefikrim lo oiveid oiteveya beno lo ya'alenu not lomus lo yatzilenu. Avol abdu biyodoi or doch lebo ki yitzben also b'minei sheinu oise imoy milchama. So the Rambam is very clear that the heter to kill a goy is only milchama. So I guess, I mean, if it's a related, it's a different issue. But if he's not a related, there's no heter to kill except if it's milchama. That's what Rambam says. The Rambam continues, and he says, so Bekitza lo yisachonim or lo yisarachim says you can't take the goy out of the bowl. And we'll see soon what type of goy we're talking about, okay? And then, however, he says further in Mishnah Torah that if you do it l'schar, if you're getting paid for it, no problem. So what says in loischana is a question of chinam, also in loisrachim, whatever it means. And the Rambam continues and says the following. Mikan, atolome, she'oso l'rapois oivdei avodah zarah afilu b'schar. V'im hoyu misyoi mehem, o shoyachoshesh mishum evo merapim b'schar v'chinam os. V'ger toishem ho at muchub s'ulakoisem mapen oisei b'chin. There's a heter deraisa for schar. It's just that I guess we don't apply it. But I'm not sure exactly. It says mikan atolomit she'osel rapois oive avodah zara afilu b'schar. V'im hoi misyores there's a heter in misyore for schar. The question is, how could it be possible that the lavloi serachem, which means lahatzil, and if you're doing it for an ulterior reason, there might be a heter, or there's a heter. The interesting thing is, and I'll show you more interesting, there is an Isa also lahoilid agoya. But that's only Gzeira in Muvu and Rambam. So laholid ulachgadil ben avodah zarah. As the Ram says in Hukas avodah zarah, Perik Tes Halacha Tes, he doesn't put a Perik Yud. It's not the rule like Sechanim. Bas Yisrael loisonik es benot shal nochis b'neish b'gadelis bein lavodah zarah v'lo siyalid es hanochis avu miyaledes hi b'schar mi b'nei eva. So l'cheira, the Ava, the schar in Ava, whatever that is, and the schar in Ava in Loisachonim, and the schar in Ava in birthing, l'cheira, two different things, because delivering a baby is only Gzeir D'Rabbanan. It is a heter of schar and eva. And in Lois Chonin, Lois Serachem of Refuah, there's also a heter of schar and eva. Okay. So the chiddush and the deraisa, you know, if schar is not mati, so you don't know what the combination of the two. But the two heterim have nothing to do with each other, a priori. So what I was confused by, and still confused, is the Gemara of the Zohar and Chafov and Aleph that compares the two and seems to say it's the same halach. The Gemara like this: the Chafov and Aleph Leminu Yehudis mialedes oived avodah zarah b'schar avolei b'chino. Omer Rav Yosef b'schar shorei mishum eva. Sov Rav Yosef lemeimo ho desanya ho ivikachovim ulei behemedako loy mal v'lo meidin asuki b'schar shorei mishum eva. So Rav Yosef wants to equate the two. So the question, how can you equate the two? According to the Rambam, one issue is an issue deraisa of a lav of lois chonim lois serachim. The question is when the heter applies, it doesn't apply, and one's a drabonon. So I must say, the Davoni, I don't know the answer to the question. It's a very odd comparison. Next, the Rambam learns that this that the loimalin and loimalin is because of leisachonin. The Ramban learns differently. The Ramban says in Chedush Ramban and Makis, Tesam and Aleph, v'goy amuske b'chol mokoy hu ben noyach shalei huchsak im mekayim mitzvahs shalahem im lav umistamo ein hubon mekayim minoison ulefikoch donu oison kisofik ein hubon mekayimon, and the before to suffix, I don't get it. V'loy hikbid olav Elo loy mailim v'loy moridin. So Ramban says the din of loy mailim v'loy moridin is because of suffix. That is chayiv misa from the zayin mitzvah noyach. Ram says because of loy srachim, loy schonim. Okay. Next. The Rambam quotes the din of loy. This is a side point. The Rambam quotes the din of loy mailim v'loy moridin in Hilchos Ritzeach also. And he quotes loy saman adam v'yech. The pshat in the Rambam, it's not the pshat that loy saman adam v'yech is a separate isa over here to mechayev loy mailim loy moridin. It's the reason why you don't have to be maile because of loy saman adam v'yech, because the lav is only by re'echa, by Jews and not by goyim. And that's just, there's no isa of loy saman adam v'yech, because re'echa is a Jew and not a goy. So that's what it says. The Ram Hilchos V'Seich Shmiras HaNefesh Be'Hagdala Lo Chiyral. Avo Hagoyim she'ein beinenu ubeino milchomo v'roi behemo adaka. Again, the whole heta is only milchomo. Ukiyetz behen ein mesabim le'misa v'yosa latzilim not the lomus kegoyin shiro echad mehen shenofal liyam einam aleu shenem odam lo isam odam re'echa. That's not re'echa v'ein ze re'echa. So I'm just, I'm going to say something. I just don't know what I'm talking about. Because, it's like a theoretical thing, which we don't know if it really could exist. But the Rambam seems to say that the reason why you're allowed to do a loy ma'alin is because loy saman adam v'yech is re'echa v'loy v'ein ze re'echa. So I'm not sure how you play this out. Because in goyim, you're not ati ma'ila because they're allowed l'sechonim. So if one lab tells you to take them out, and one lab says you leave them there, so you have to take them out. I'm not sure how this plays itself out. So maybe he's only going on the end of it. B'roi behem adaka mi Yisrael u'kiyetze behen ein b'sabim lehem misa, because they're not re'acha, because they're not shomer mitzvahs. So for Avogoyim, but why would he quote in Hilchos V'Tzeich? I'm just not sure how this plays it out. This needs an explanation. Because if he could have said it's only going on Goy Behema Daka and Ukiyetz Behen, Emesamul Misa, V'atzilam, Im not Ulamus, because it's not Reacha. But the Ram's mashma goes on Goyim also. And Goyim anywhere is allowed. I don't get it. I'm not sure. And if Lav says one way and the other Lav says the other way, so I would have said Sheva al Tasa. I'm confused. That's Gufa. That's a Lav to be Sheva al Tasa. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. So let's go on. Now let's get to the more things. So who is this mysterious guy that if he falls in a pit, you can't take him out? So the Ram says that it's an Oived Avodah Zarah. And that's in the Ksav Yad. In the Judeo-Arabic, it says Oived Avodah Zarah. So it's very clear that's the Ram said. It's not a question of translation. So we're talking about a goy. First, we're talking about any goy, not dafka zayin amamin, and we're talking about a goy zovid avodah zarah. So let's take them one at a time. Okay. So first point. Here we'll see that l'chor from pshuta shomikot showing me zayin amamin. The Ram said no. We're not talking about zayin am. We're talking about any ovid avodah zarah. And l'chera, it's because even though pshutam shomiko is zayin amamin, the matiki ashmua say that it's matiki ashmua say that it's all goy. Let's see the psukim. Ki yaviach Hashem Elokecha lo'etz ashat tovo shomer l'rishto. This is in the volume Zayin Perek Aleph Gimel. V'nosh hagoyim rab b'nech achiti hagilgoshi v'hoemori v'aknani v'aprizi v'achibi v'yebusi shiva goyim rab v'atzumi mecca. We're talking about very clearly Zayin Amamin. When the son of Hashem Elokecha lefonecho v'kisem hachrim tachrimim. Hachrim tachrimim. Hachrim tachrim. Hachre tachrim oisom. Loi sichois lohem bris. V'loi sechonem. V'loi sischatem bom. Bitcho loi sitein. Libnoi ubito loi sikach luvanecho. So the Raya, the Matikya Shmua, says the law of Leischonim applies to all goyim, not only to Zayin Amamin. If you look in the Ksav Yad, in the Sugan of the Zohar Daf Chof, when it talks about the Isa and the Leischonim, it seems that it's B'chol Goy, it's all about Goy. And the Isa Leischatein, the Rama Paskin, Leischatein, is by all Goy. Is because the Matikya Shmuel go like that. And the Gemara of the Zohar in Lamed Vav and Beis, we'll see him at Hashem. Is that it's their chat, and I'll be sure, and in Abshim Ben Yochai. Okay, Beseder. I just want to tell you something that this is mamish very odd. It's almost like Chilif and Pupanisi. You can't go a pasuk in the middle. Because you look at the pasuk in pasuk Beis, when the son of Hashem Elokecha b'yodecha v'kisem, hachreim tachrim, oisom, loisichois lehem bris, v'loisachonim. So if you recall, the Rambam loisichos lehem bris, he learned that it's going on Zayin Amamin. And then you have the same pasuk, half of it, and it's the same indefinite pronoun reference, loisichois, loisachonim. And you have the Matikya Shmur say one is going on all goyim, and the other one is only going on Zayin Amamin. That's absolutely amazing. Okay, Next. Now, these goyim are oivdei avodah zarah. And l'chayra, pash the Rambam, depends upon oivdei avodah zarah with Metzius. And we don't know that you have to be a get toisha or to be matir. The Rambam doesn't quote get toisha as a matir in this mitzvah. In all the set of mitzvahs, the Rambam only quotes get toisha as far as yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. The Loisa said nun aleph in Mitzvah Shem will see. There he writes, "V'ilotz hagoy lamod be'atzenu eino mutalono zeh ad shikabel lo shalav avodah zarah v'oz yeh shelo lishkoin v'zeh yiko get toisha." He just happens to say that a kabbalah not to avodah zarah is a get toisha. It's irrelevant for us. But the only time he says you need to get toisha to mafkia, he says it only by lo yeshe be'atzecha. So the chayra, a guy who's not an avodah zarah, an oived avodah zarah, there's no lav of lois chanem. As he says, mechamol al oivdei avodah zarah. And let's see the Rambam. In Perek Yud Halacha Aleph, he also seems to say that it depends upon Oived Avodah Zarah b'Metzius. The Rambam says in Koisim Bris li Oived Avodah Zarah el yachzu me avodah som o yahogu v'yosel rachim aleihem. Who are they aleihem? Oived Avodah Zarah. Shenem leischon afirim ro goy Oived Avodah Zarah. Oived oitevei beno lo yalenu. Ro not to lomus lo yetzilenu. If you look at Halacha Beis, the Ram's mashma that a goy that is not Oived Avodah Zarah is mutal rapoise b'schar. But Bechinam is only had to baget toisha. Because he says, Mikana Tolome Chosel Rapois Oived Avodah Zarah afilu b'schar. That's only Oived Avodah Zarah. Bim hoya misyore, but it's not Oived Avodah Zarah. The choy is a het schar. Misyore, but Oived Avodah Zarah. Oh, shehoya choyshish mishum evo map b'schar. Av b'chinam also v'get toishav hoya v'ata mitzul achiyos map nois b'chinam. So the choy goy who's not Avodah Zarah is muta b'schar even without eva. And a get toishav only get toishav where it's v'ata muchtzul achiyos. There's a het of chinam. Now, let's continue. Now, there's a second part to this love. And that second part, umiyapois dovo, that's what Ibn Tibin says. Umilishabeach shum dovo. He's enjoined milishabeach. He's enjoined from chamol, and he's enjoined miyapois. Umilishabeach shum dovo mikol ma shiyuchol lehem. That which is peculiar about them, or miyuchad lehem. Kapach says that the translation is really lehispoel, hispilus, nafshis, miyofi dovashalem. To have a to be overwhelmed by beauty or something, whatever. Now, here becomes, things get interesting. Okay, so he says, huh? So the Ram is mashmo, leischonim includes two things. It's this and that, and that's in the Nusach of the Mitzvah. It's mechamo, alev de avodah zorah, umeyapis dovo, yucholem. All of the avodah zorah, it's to Beshabeach, and it's to Mimach. Okay, Beseder. Then the Ram continues. Ubo'o hakabolo leisitein lohem chen ad shoish yofer hatzura me'oiv de avodah zorah eno mutar lano lo shenoima. Zeh yofer yefei Torah. He's beautiful. He's handsome. Oh, he's there, pon of your face. He has a beautiful face. K'mo she's boye b'gemora didon. Gemora b'dizor chofam now. Okay, say that. Now let's go slow. Ubo hakabola. What does it mean, bo hakabola? So what it means is that the pshat of Chamo is Chutoshomiko. That's Unkelis. And the other pshat, which is also part of the Nusach HaMitzvah, that's a Kabbalah, a Piyush Amakubo, that Loisite Lohem Chen. Again, one is Chutoshomiko, and one is a Piyush Makubo. Boa Kabbalah. This will have ramifications in the future, but let's just remember it at the moment. So, l'cheira, achi isa yofat sura may oiv the avodah zorah is mufurish that the isa of Shevach is also an oiv avodah zorah. And oiv avodah zorah mitzias. But the Rambam in Mishnah Torah, I'm not sure about that, because the Ram says in Perek Yud Halacha Daled, v'chein osa l'sape b'shvochon, v'afilu loima kamo no'o goy ze b'tzurasa. So it's a push to goy. I don't know. Now, let's continue a little bit more in this halacha. Ram Perek Yud Avodah Zorah Halacha Daled. V'chein osa l'sape b'shvochon, v'afilu loima kamo no'o goy ze b'tzurasa. It means we're not saying it to the guy, but we're saying it to ourselves. That's what he says. Then he says something else. Kal v'choimo sheyisape b'shvach ma'asav or sheyichaviv dov b'divreim shnemo lo yisechonim v'lo yiyeh lohem chen beinecho b'bnei shegoyrem lehidabek imoy v'lum mima'asav horoim. So where does this come from? So The Avodas HaMelech says a very interesting thing and says that the Rambam learned the Kiyosir, which was said a pasuk or two later, goes also on the Lav Sechonim. So it says, Ki Yosir has been chomeachrai. V'ovdu Elohim acherim. V'chora af Hashem bochem v'ishmit chomayer. So Ki Yosir is also not only tam on loisis chatein, but it's also tam on loisis chonim. That's what he claims. The only question I would ask is if it's true, it should go in all these surim of loisis chonim. And the Rambam in Mishnah Torah only quotes it by Divrei Shevach. So maybe Adarabba, it's a Kal V'chomer. Madach Divrei Shevach, that he's not has any maga with the goy or masim matin with the goy. Lakom with Divrei Shevach, shali before enough, become also certainly everything else is also because of this. In other words, the East applies, even in this case, we has no Masulman. Now, here this becomes interesting because there are those that claim that when this tam doesn't apply, you're allowed to say Shevach. And the first case is the Gemara in Shabbos, La Megimlo Beis, Hosa Rabbi Yehuda Yomo, Kamanoim Ma'aseim Shel Umezo. It's the Romium. Tiknu Shvokim, they made marketplaces. Tiknu Gshorim, they made bridges. Tiknu Mechatzos, made bathhouses. The discussion I'm in Tanoim back and forth about this, whether it is a shvach or not, but whatever it is, the question, how can he say it? So in the Ha'oris, Rabbi Yasha says, on Shabbos day he says, the Afagaf Tichsiv Lo Yisechonim, the Dashim Ele Lo Yisitel Hem Chein, Dahena Shol Shabeach Umas Olam. So he says, Yesh Shlem Al Pi Mashkos Ramam. Because we been gorim lidobek imoy will not make me masay maloyim. So he says, "Ulai the feeds the dvorov yesh lechalik ben yochid lemalchus." There's no chashash that you're going to have a social interaction with the malchus. The whole chashash is only in yichidim. So you say a malchus is like that, then there's no issue. But Sochi, he's not sure about this. But it's amazing song. Okay. In another Sefer Dibus Ariel, Simon Nundalid, he says the Israel is the Chonem, dog with myself. So therefore, it's only if your guy is alive, but a dead guy, you can say all the shvach in the world because you're not going to be interact with them. And they say that's shot in the Gemara Soitim, the Beis Mebeis, that the reason why it's also is shvachim shorishoyim also the sapach lachamisa. But for Loisachon, it wouldn't be also. So Mr. Hashem, we'll pick this up next week, and the B'nai Shalom should be Shalom Yisrael. And